Catherine Elizabeth Lloyd, you are charged on this indictment on 3 counts. On the first count, you are charged with criminal damage, contrary to Section 1, Subsection 1 of the Criminal Damage Act 1971. The particulars being that on the 16th of October 1983, you, without lawful excuse, damaged a van belonging to Fulchester Health Authority, intending to cause such damage or being reckless as to whether such damage was caused. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
On the second count, you are charged with wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, contrary to Section 18 of the Offences Against the Persons Act 1861. The particulars being that you, on the 16th of October 1983, wounded John Lang with intent to cause him grievous bodily harm. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
On the third count, you are charged with malicious wounding, contrary to Section 20 of the Offences Against the Persons Act 1861. The particulars being that you, on the 16th of October 1983, maliciously wounded John Lang. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Sorry. The case you're about to see is fictional, but the procedure is legally accurate. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is selected from members of the public.
Members of the jury, you may have had difficulty passing through the crowd outside the court. Let me say, people are entitled, if they so wish, to demonstrate outside any courtroom, even to show solidarity with the defendant, always provided the law is observed and no one, whether witness or jury member, is intimidated. Now, I'm assured by the police that no such untoward behavior has occurred here today. Now, you'll please put from your minds anything you may have seen or heard beyond these walls and reach a verdict in this case without fear or favor on the evidence before you.
Times change, members of the jury, but things have reached a pretty pass when a young nurse, in uniform no less, stands accused of criminal damage to hospital property and the wounding of a hospital colleague with intent to cause him grievous bodily harm. Serious offences committed in view of her own ward, her own patients. Offences which, if proved, will surely cost the defendant her job. And offences carried out, I submit, in the course of an industrial dispute. A strike, members of the jury. And a strike about what? About who should do Fulchester District Health Authority's dirty washing. A strike in which the defendant played a leading role and played it with a passion that turned her from a trained healer caring for the sick into a malevolent trade union militant, skulking on the picket line at dusk in order to wreak her terrible revenge upon a fellow worker who had dared to defy the strike, dared to do his duty to the hospital and to its patients, as if this were a crime, members of the jury.
Silence in court.
Mr. Belgrave, are you opening your case or making a political speech?
Opening my case, Your Honour.
Then perhaps we could proceed to the facts.
Hear, hear.
Be quiet.
Your name is John Lang.
Yes.
And you...
Silence.
And you are laundry supervisor at Fulchester General Hospital.
I am.
Silence in court.
Would the person or persons responsible for such gross contempt please stand and identify themselves so they may be punished? I see. This is a court of law, not a picket line or a football match. The public gallery will be cleared.
Clear the public gallery.
You call this British justice? Closed courts and secret trials?
Arrest that man!
Look at you all! Private schools and private hospitals!
Silence!
How can she get a fair hearing after the jury's on private health?
You will be detained in the cells below and brought back to sentence when this case is complete.
Take him away.
Members of the jury, you sit in the eye of the storm that industrial disputes so often arouse. A storm of emotion, which, in fairness to the defendant, you must ignore. Equally, you may be assured, had the defense doubted your impartiality, it would have made objection before your swearing in. Is that not true, Mrs. Merritt?
Yes, Your Honour.
Thank you, Your Honour. Mr. Lang, will you cast your mind back to an incident at the north gate of the Fulchester General Hospital in the late afternoon of October the 16th?
Yes, I was bringing laundry from one of the outlying district hospitals.
Bringing laundry, Mr. Lang?
Yes.
But you are the laundry supervisor. Do you normally fetch the washing?
Well, the laundry workers were on strike. Management was running the machines. The hospital drivers come out in sympathy, so I was on the laundry wagon.
The driving?
No, we were using a young trainee as driver.
And you were in the passenger seat?
Yes.
And what did you notice as the wagon turned into the hospital gate?
The pickets had gone.
Pickets?
The strikers had been picketing all entrances to the hospital since the dispute began.
When was that?
10 days before.
24-hour pickets?
Dawn to dusk, usually, till about 6:30 at night.
And on the day in question, what time did you reach the north gate?
4:45.
Were you surprised to find the pickets gone?
No,
Why?
because they'd all been arrested.
Including the defendant, Mr. Belgrave?
No, Your Honour.
Then I would suggest the jury discounts the point.
Your Honour, I am merely trying to establish that the north gate had been a battleground for most of the day, and Mr. Lang had been in the thick of it.
Mrs. Merritt?
My learned friend's line of attack was perfectly predictable. It is agreed that a lower court has already returned guilty verdicts on 16 hospital workers accused of obstructing Mr. Lang's laundry van by sitting down in front of it.
All at once?
In batches.
Oh. Oh, forgive me, members of the jury. Mrs. Merritt would prefer you not to discount the arrested pickets.
Mr. Lang, in your spare time, I believe, you work voluntarily as a special constable.
I do.
To some extent, then, you are a trained observer.
Yes.
Are you ever required to report on your observations?
When necessary.
Very well. Could you please describe for us the hospital's north gate?
Actually, there is no gate. It's just a back entrance with a drive running slightly downhill to the laundry. Like a little valley between grass slopes with a few trees.
And as your wagon passed along the driveway, what happened?
I suddenly noticed a nurse running down the slope at my side, yelling at us.
Yelling?
I couldn't hear, the window was up, but I could see her face. It was all twisted, contorted. Her eyes were puckered up and she seemed to be yelling, "Swine, swine."
Would you recognize that face again?
I shall never forget it.
Do you see it in this court?
Mrs. Merritt?
Identity is not in dispute, Your Honour.
It was Nurse Lloyd.
The defendant, Catherine Lloyd.
Yes. She was carrying a placard, a cardboard placard on a wooden stake.
Is this the placard?
Yes.
Your Honour, may I submit this object as exhibit number 1? Carry on, Mr. Lang.
As we passed, she launched herself from the bottom of the slope and ran the placard into the side window. Well, the glass shattered. Fragments hit my face, my left eye. I remember crying out. The driver pulled over to the right, lost control, and we rammed into a tree on the opposite slope. The impact threw me against the passenger door, and my head hit the broken glass.
Which part of the placard hit the window?
The top of the stake.
Forgive me, but you were badly cut.
Yes, it needed 27 stitches.
Will there be permanent scars?
Yes.
And the sight in the left eye?
I've had 2 operations. It's too soon to tell.
Now, about the hospital laundry wagon.
Oh, the front end, the driver's side, was completely staved in.
Your Honour, may I submit agreed photographs of the damaged vehicle and the scene of the accident as Exhibit 2? One more question, Mr. Lang. Have you seen Nurse Lloyd since the incident?
Yes, I have. She visited me after the second operation.
Yes?
She seemed most upset.
What did she say?
She said she was sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Lang.
Or injury.
Excuse me, Your Honour. Mr. Lang, had you ever seen Nurse Lloyd before the incident at the North Gate on October the 16th?
I could hardly miss her.
Oh, why?
She was on the picket line every day.
Come now, Mr. Lang. There must have been dozens of pickets on duty over the 10 days.
She was the only nurse.
In the entire hospital?
Yes.
But Nurse Lloyd was not on strike.
No. She's in the same union as laundry workers, only she never came out. I've no idea why not.
Might it not have been her sense of duty? Her duty to the hospital, to her ward colleagues, to the patients?
Really, Your Honour?
Yes, indeed. Come now, Mrs. Merritt. You know better than that.
I apologise, Your Honour. So when did Nurse Lloyd actually join the picket line?
At lunchtimes, or when she'd finished work.
Where else did you see her during the dispute?
On the strike committee.
Negotiating with management?
More or less.
Not more or less, Mr. Lang. Yes or no?
Yes.
Is it customary to have a non-striker on a strike committee?
She was the ringleader.
Ringleader? What then was the purpose of this ring she led?
To prevent the hospital laundry from being privatised.
Your laundry?
The health service laundry.
In other words, the strike was in defence of the National Health Service.
That's one way of putting it.
Let me put something else to you, Mr. Lang. Were you aware that Nurse Lloyd kept the strike committee in touch with every ward throughout Fulchester to ensure that the dispute caused no shortage of, say, bedding or operating gowns?
Yes.
Because the strike was aimed at management, not patients.
So they said.
And in the whole 10 days before the afternoon of October the 16th, did Nurse Lloyd, to your knowledge, ever use or advocate violence?
No.
Yet you expect the jury to believe that this same person, this dedicated nurse, acting quite out of character, hurled herself at a moving vehicle and deliberately smashed the window where you were sitting.
From the look on her face...
Deliberately? You're saying she did it deliberately?
Yes.
To hurt you?
Yes.
To cause these terrible injuries?
I knew by the look on her face.
Ah, yes. The face. The contorted face with the eyes all puckered up. Now, in your experience as a special constable, Mr. Lang, have you ever seen anyone knocked down?
Yes, I have.
By a lorry or a van, perhaps?
Yes.
So you would recognise someone's look of horror when they saw disaster looming, say, in the shape of your laundry van?
Well, it wasn't like that. It was a look of sheer hatred.
As Shakespeare has it, Mr. Lang, there is no art to find the mind's construction in the face, unless, of course, you're a mind reader. Are you a mind reader, Mr. Lang?
I think I know the difference between fear and loathing.
Now, when your laundry van turned into the hospital entrance, what speed was it doing?
About 5 miles an hour.
And when you were attacked by this screaming dervish?
Your Honour.
Try not to get carried away, Mrs. Merritt.
Of course, Your Honour. What speed were you doing when the collision took place?
With the tree?
With Nurse Lloyd?
15 miles an hour, maybe?
How far down the drive had you travelled?
Not far.
How far?
5 yards, roughly.
Why such acceleration, Mr. Lang?
The gate was clear.
No other reason?
Well, it'd been a hell of a day. We'd been stopped half a dozen times. Police, arrests, newspaper men, television cameras. I was tired. Last trip, the gate was clear, so I told the driver to get a move on.
When did you notice Nurse Lloyd?
By the wagon, with the placard.
Not when you swung into the gates?
No.
Wasn't she standing on top of the slope?
I never saw her.
Though it was only 5 yards away?
No.
In her nurse's uniform?
I didn't see her.
Are you not a trained observer, Mr. Lang? Was it dark?
Getting dark.
How dark?
Murky.
Oh, come now, Mr. Lang. It was mid-October, 4:45. Your Honour, The defendant is wearing her uniform here, not in order to enlist sympathy, but to establish that she was quite clearly visible as the laundry van turned into the hospital gates. The question is, why did Mr. Lang not see her?
I was watching the road.
Now, earlier in the dispute, before the arrests, where did the strikers assemble?
Along the slopes.
Nurse Lloyd among them?
Yes, on several occasions.
And what were the strikers doing?
Picketing?
Peacefully?
More or less.
By decades of custom in this country, peaceful picketing means the attempt to dissuade workers, suppliers, so on, from entering strike-bound premises. Am I right, Mr. Lang?
Peaceful picketing, yes.
Very well. I suggest you saw Nurse Lloyd straight away, that you knew that she was going to picket your van and that you accelerated in order to get past her.
We were in a hurry.
From 5 to 15 miles an hour in 15 feet, Mr. Lang, is worthy of a Grand Prix racing car, not a hospital laundry van. Now then, this contorted face at your window, you say it was shouting swine.
Yes.
So it would appear you're also a lip reader. Watch my mouth. What was I saying?
Things like swine.
Which things?
I don't know.
Neither do I, Mrs. Merritt.
I was saying shine, shell, shoot, swine, soldier, swing.
Quite. But do people usually shout shine or shell or even soldier at passing laundry wagons?
Equally, Your Honour. Do they shout swine? And might not the defendant have merely shouted stop?
I propose you ask Mr. Lang.
Mr. Lang?
It wasn't stopped.
How could you tell without hearing in the split second as that face loomed up beside you? Now, how big is your van?
2 tons.
No. Seated, how high would you be off the ground?
6 feet.
Where did the placard strike?
Halfway up the window.
Below shoulder height?
Just.
Did the nurse jab at the window, or did she draw back her arm and thrust at it?
I didn't see her arm.
What did you actually see? Did she run into your 2-ton vehicle? Did she stop and lash at it? Did she slip? Did she pitch forward? Did she fall?
I don't know.
Yet you knew the window was broken deliberately.
By her face. By the yelling. I just knew.
You just knew. Thank you.
Mr. Belgrave, do you wish to re-examine?
Indeed, Your Honour. Mr. Lang, you said that the picketing had been more or less peaceful. What did you mean?
Well, for the first week it was the usual stuff.
The usual stuff?
Yes, lots of banners, leaflets, flagging people down, trying to get them to stop and turn round. Then the whole thing escalated. By the 8th day, the strike committee was saying that it would only let essential supplies go through.
Who defined essential?
The committee.
Including Nurse Lloyd?
Yes.
How many people work at Fulchester General, Mr. Lang?
About 1,000.
And how large was the strike committee?
6, mostly.
Did you ever meet them?
Every day.
How would you describe the role of Nurse Lloyd?
Is my learned friend attempting to elicit a fact or an opinion?
A fact. I trust.
Is she a shop steward?
In her union, there aren't many nurses, and she represents them.
Now, during the laundry strike, Mr. Lang, you yourself were in the management's front line.
Unwillingly.
Sorry?
Fulchester Health Authority had wanted to build a new hospital laundry, but the government stopped the project. Instead, we were told to send the washing out to a commercial contractor, close the existing laundry, losing about 50 jobs.
Including your own?
Possibly.
Yet when the strike began, you had to keep the laundry going.
Yes, with management help.
Permit me, in trade union parlance, were you not blacklegging?
I was doing my job.
In the first week, did the pickets manage to stop your van?
We just drove straight past.
With the windows up?
To avoid abuse.
Being people of the world, Mr. Belgrave, the jury will realise what can occur on picket lines. Are you suggesting the defendant herself was abusive at this point?
No, Your Honour.
Then the jury will ignore the remark.
Yes, Your Honour. Now, in the new situation, on day 8, was Nurse Lloyd directly involved in any specific picket line activity?
Well, they were blocking the drive now. At least twice, she stopped the wagon to see if our delivery was essential.
And on day 10, the picture changed again?
Yes.
Now, of the 16 people arrested for obstructing your wagon, how many were on the strike committee?
5.
Is my learned friend implying the defendant is guilty by association?
Your Honour, I'm simply trying to make clear the position at the North Gate on October the 16th, when the defendant was the only member of the strike committee not under arrest, and Mr. Lang had been, so to speak, party to the arrests. Thank you, Mr. Lang.
Regrettably, this case is arousing tensions much inside as outside the court. We shall adjourn and reassemble tomorrow, I hope, in a somewhat calmer manner.
All stand. All persons having anything further to do at Her Majesty's Crown Court may now depart hence and give attendance at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. God save the Queen and my lords the Queen's Justices.
Anybody would think I was on trial, not her. I didn't elect the government. I'm just the pig in the middle. You know what they said when I got here? Pieces of 8. I ask you.
I think you better speak to Mr. Pritchett.
As if I'm up for promotion after this lot.
All that macho stuff at the start didn't do us much good.
Look, they're people, not puppets. In the old music hall days, they'd have been up in the gods. Well, for my money, that's where they still are. Up with the gods. If they don't like something, they say so.
This isn't a music hall, Cathy. It's a court of law.
Whose law? The law we deserve?
Maybe. Right now, it's the only law we've got.
The case of the Queen and Lloyd will be continued tomorrow in the Crown Court.
I know how you feel. But for Cathy's sake, when he lets you back, try and keep quiet.
The case you're about to see is fictional, but the procedure is legally accurate. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is selected from members of the general public. So far, the jury has heard the opening stages of the prosecution case against Catherine Lloyd, a nurse accused of criminal damage and wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. The alleged offences occurred during an industrial dispute over the privatisation of Fulchester District Health Authority's laundry service. Yesterday, tensions ran so high that the public galleries had to be cleared. Outside the courtroom, health workers continued their demonstrations on behalf of the defendant.
All stand. All persons having anything to do at Her Majesty's Crown Court, draw near and give attendance.
Members of the jury, justice must not only be done, it must also be seen to be done. I have readmitted the public to this court in the hope that the matter before you will be completed without further disturbance.
Your name is Paul Walker. You are 19 years old, unemployed, of Flat 3, Grattam House, Fulchester.
Yeah?
The jury might hear you better if you stopped chewing.
Silence!
Please excuse the witness, Your Honour.
Chewing gum is the least of our problems.
Going back to last October, Mr. Walker, you were working, I believe, as a trainee at Fulchester General Hospital.
Yeah.
During the first 10 days of the laundry workers' strike, you were driving the hospital laundry wagon.
Yeah.
On day 10 now, Mr. Walker, will you tell the jury what happened as you drove through the North Gate on the last laundry trip?
Well, a nurse over there ran down the slope by the road and rammed a placard through the side window.
Yes?
What?
What happened next?
Well, it broke.
Be quiet.
The window broke.
Sure, it broke.
Well, go on.
Well, then the boss kind of fell
The
over
boss,
me.
Mr. Lang?
Well, he fell over me, holding his head, yelling out. I yanked the wheel across instinctive-like, and we were heading for the other slope. When I yanked it back, there was this car coming up the other road, so I ran it into a tree.
Your van?
To miss him.
Were you hurt?
No.
You were lucky.
Was I blazers lucky? It was good driving. Somebody could have got killed.
Quite. And Mr. Lang?
Well, he was cut bad. Right down his face. Blood all over. There was some spare towels on the floor. He wrapped one round his head and belted off to casualty.
And what did you do?
Got out.
Go on.
I went back to the nurse. She was sitting in the road screaming, hysterical like.
Did you speak to her?
Yeah, I said, what the blazes were you playing at? More or less.
What did she say?
Nothing, she just kept screaming. So I slapped her face like on the telly.
What did she do?
Well, she stopped screaming.
And then?
She stood up, white as a sheet, all shivering,
Yes.
and hit me back.
Across the face?
Right, she said, you tried to get me, you little bastard.
And what did you say?
I said, you ran out, you bloody ran out.
Go on.
Well, then she fell over again, as if her legs gave way. I think she did her head on the wagon. Anyway, this fella from the other car, he says he'll stay with her while I fetch a doctor and ring the police.
As you entered the gate, Mr. Walker, where was Nurse Lloyd?
On top of the grassy bit.
Could you see her clearly?
Yeah,
What did she do?
bent down to pick up the placard.
And then?
Well, I looked away.
Why?
Well, the boss told me to get a move on.
How did he say it?
Pardon?
Well, did he speak calmly? Did he shout?
Yeah,
Which?
he shouted.
Loudly?
Yeah.
Do you know whether Mr. Lang had also seen Nurse Lloyd?
Well, it could be. Well, he was looking dead-head like usual.
Usual.
Whenever there was pickets, if they came banging on the sides, kicking the wheels.
Did Nurse Lloyd ever bang the sides or kick the wheels?
Not that I know of.
You were driving, Mr. Walker. Did she or didn't she?
No.
Thank you.
Mind
Now
you, she
then.
did her fair share of yelling and screaming. Half the time she had a megaphone. She used to call us blacklegs and scabs.
Were you blacklegging, Mr. Walker?
Oh, Your Honour.
My learned friend did introduce the term.
Does that make it any the less offensive?
Strike breaking, then. Were you strike breaking, Mr. Walker?
Strike was right.
Then why were you attempting to break it?
I had no option.
Why?
I joined the hospital on the youth training scheme.
What as?
Gardener.
But during the strike, you were asked to drive the hospital van.
Told. The bosses said there was no one else. If I refused, they'd sack me and I'd never get another training place anywhere.
Did the strikers give you a hard time?
I laughed in their faces. I'd been on the dole since school. What would they have done?
So how come you're now unemployed?
Bosses sacked me anyway.
Why?
Because I wouldn't drive the bloody wagon anymore.
Since the incident with Nurse Lloyd?
Yeah, 1 yard slower and she'd have been under the front wheels, wouldn't she?
How near the grass verge were you?
Inches.
Only inches. In a 2-ton vehicle.
It's a narrow road.
Did you see Nurse Lloyd running down the slope?
Not all the way. I was looking from her to the road.
But you knew that she was heading for you.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Put my foot down harder.
To try and get past her?
Yeah.
As Mr. Lang wanted?
He never said.
What did you think?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Now, did you see Nurse Lloyd's placard hit the window?
He only heard it. Felt it, like.
Did you see her face as she
Yeah.
came towards you?
Yeah.
Just describe it, please.
Well, she looked mad.
Angry?
That's what I said.
Yes, but not crazy, not stark staring mad.
No. I don't know. It was over in a flash.
Mr. Walker, hadn't the police already warned you about your driving during the dispute?
Yeah,
When?
after the first week.
Didn't you in fact drive at speed through a picket line?
The boss told me to.
Mr. Lang?
Yeah, he said we had to stir things up because the strike was deadlocked.
Did the pickets complain to the police?
Oh, Your Honour, how can the witness possibly know?
From the boss.
Learned counsel, Mr. Walker, was speaking to me.
Sorry.
What else did Mr. Lang tell you, Mr. Walker?
Well, he said the police bollocked the management, so the union got this new deal. We could search the wagon every trip to make sure we were only carrying essentials.
And after day 7, was the van ever turned away?
Only once. The boss was furious about the time we lost. It meant managers working over in the laundry.
Until day 10.
Right. Well, this morning the boss said not to let the pickets search the wagon. If they tried to block us, the police would do them for obstruction.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Mr. Belgrave?
Only one more question, Your Honour. Mr. Walker, at 5:15, as you entered the north gate, was the driveway clear?
It's clear of pickets.
And was it still clear when Mr. Lang asked you to get a move on?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Sister Jeffries, you work at Fulchester General in charge of the women's surgical ward, and one of your nurses is the defendant, Catherine Lloyd.
Yes.
Now tell the jury, did news of the arrests on October the 16th at the North Gate travel through the hospital quickly?
Like wildfire. Mind you, we didn't need the Bush telegraph. We could see everything out of our window. There were police everywhere. There were even some waiting in a van along a side street.
And did you discuss the situation with Nurse Lloyd?
Naturally.
What did she say?
She thought the management were trying to break the strike. Then she said, it's that little sod, John Lang. He's been at it from the start, playing the hero. I think he'd be on our side.
That little sod, John Lang?
Yes.
She blamed Mr. Lang for the arrests?
Well, because he's a special constable. Nurse Lloyd said she wouldn't have put it past him to have arrested the whole lot personally.
Personally?
By citizen's arrest.
Ah.
She said he was always traipsing about threatening citizens' arrests.
What else did the defendant say?
She hoped that the pickets held out until 4:30.
Oh, for any particular reason?
That was the time she came off duty and she wanted to join the picket line.
Even though she would have been arrested?
Well, she said she couldn't just stand by and watch people going to jail for what she believed.
I see.
And anyhow, she'd be out on bail if it was only obstruction. That's what she said. So not to worry. She'd be back on the ward the next day because the hospital wouldn't sack anyone for sitting down in the road. Not if it was a fight for the health service. Not unless they wanted to victimise folk. Well, that's what she said.
Sister Jeffries, did you agree with Nurse Lloyd's support of the laundry workers?
No, few of the nurses did.
In your opinion?
You did ask for my opinion.
I also ask. Have you ever taken part in industrial action of any kind?
No. That doesn't mean I don't care.
Of course. Your own union, I gather, had a no-strike policy.
Yes.
Even in defence of the health service.
A nurse can hardly defend her job or her hospital by hurting her patients.
Have you ever seen Nurse Lloyd hurt anyone?
No.
Did you ever hear her threaten to hurt anyone?
No.
Did you ever hear her threaten to hurt Mr. Lang?
No.
Now, in previous health disputes over pay, for instance, or ward closures, did Nurse Lloyd organise meetings for the people of Fulchester?
Yes.
Did she appear in television interviews?
Yes.
Did you approve?
No.
During the general election, did she persuade management to allow candidates to speak inside the hospital?
Yes.
Did you approve?
No.
Would you agree, however, that she is a competent and experienced trade union representative?
Yes.
If she is acquitted of these serious charges, would you welcome her back on your ward?
Do you want an honest answer?
Certainly.
As a nurse, yes.
And as a trade unionist?
No.
Is Nurse Lloyd not entitled to her opinions?
Naturally. and I am entitled to mine.
Your Honour, I must object to the way my learned friend is treating Crown witnesses.
Oh?
She seems to be turning this case into a political trial.
What an astounding idea, coming from the prosecution. If defence counsel is practising politics, Mr. Belgrave, then the inference must be that I am allowing her to do so.
That is not what I meant, Your Honour.
Then precisely what do you mean?
Your Honour, my learned friend seeks to enlist sympathy for the defendant, rather as if she were a latter-day St. Joan, suffering for a noble cause. But commitment to a cause is no defence to these charges, nor can it justify the harassment of witnesses who may not happen to share it.
Mrs. Merritt?
Your Honour, on the main issue, the prosecution must prove Nurse Lloyd's intent to cause grievous bodily harm. It has therefore sought to portray her as a political activist, as a trade union militant. Can the defence therefore be blamed for trying to suggest the opposite, that the political experience of the defendant points to her innocence?
The general setting of this case, members of the jury, may be rather complex, but the legal questions at its heart, I suspect, will prove straightforward. On these issues, I shall hope to guide you at a later stage. Meanwhile, it's my task to ensure that this trial is properly conducted. Have you any further cross-examination, Mrs. Merritt?
Oh, yes, indeed, Your Honour. Sister Jeffreys, are you aware of the difference between picketing and obstruction?
Is there any difference?
Hardly the remark of an industrial innocent, Sister Jeffreys.
Oh, I'm not an innocent.
Oh, I never thought you were. You say Nurse Lloyd was in a hurry to join the picket line and would not stand by while her union colleagues were being jailed.
That's what she said.
Did she ever say directly that she intended to obstruct the laundry van?
No.
Had you discussed with Nurse Lloyd the hospital's attitude to criminal offences?
Everyone knows you can't be a nurse once you've a record. Not here, at least.
Did you discuss it with her?
Yes, when we were watching the arrests.
No further questions, Your Honour.
Sister Jeffreys, my learned friend seems to be suggesting some hostility from you towards Nurse Lloyd. Would she be correct?
No, she wouldn't.
And apart from calling him a little sod, did Nurse Lloyd tell you anything suggesting hostility on her part towards Mr. Lang?
Repeatedly.
On the ward?
During the strike, she seemed to blame him for everything. Conniving with the police, driving at the pickets, even keeping the laundry going, which was only his job.
Conniving with the police?
She thought he'd brought his friends in to save his face because he couldn't stand buckling down to strikers.
Friends?
Well, with him being in the specials, she said that he wasn't satisfied in rounding up lads at soccer matches. Now he was jailing his own workers. They'd be stuck in freezing cells for hours on their own. Their families wouldn't know where they were. They wouldn't even be allowed solicitors. I'll show him, she said. I'll show him.
Silence! Silence in court!
Try to speak up, Mr. Baldwin. I know it must be nerve-wracking. Now, your car was coming up the driveway towards the approaching laundry van.
Yes. The road is very narrow, so I turned into a lay-by.
And while you were waiting, what did you see?
A young nurse ran down the slope, waving a banner. At the bottom, she seemed to jump forward as the van passed.
Jumped forward, you say? Not slipped, not fell, but jumped forward?
Yes. Her arm came up, and she seemed to jab the banner into the side of the van.
Jabbed, you say?
That's how it looked to me. The van swerved, swung back, swerved again to avoid my car, and hit a tree.
Now, forgetting the nurse for a moment, was there any other reason for the van to have swerved?
None at all.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin.
Was the nurse shouting, Mr. Baldwin?
I think so. I couldn't hear.
How fast was she running?
Too fast.
Could she have stopped?
I doubt it.
So if the van had been going a fraction slower, she would have been knocked down?
Yeah, yes, I suppose she would.
Think carefully, Mr. Baldwin. Didn't the nurse, in fact, throw up both arms to protect herself?
I'm not sure. It was the placard I noticed.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin.
Unless Your Honour has any questions, that is the case for the prosecution.
I intend to call only one witness, Your Honour, the defendant herself.
Silence!
One person is already awaiting sentence for contempt of this court. Have I made myself clear?
Your name is Catherine Elizabeth Lloyd.
Yes.
How old are you?
25.
And you're a state-registered nurse at Fulchester General Hospital.
Yes.
How long have you been qualified, Nurse Lloyd?
5 years.
So you began your training straight after school?
Yes.
And I believe both your parents are doctors.
From South Wales. They were in at the start of the National Health Service.
Is this relevant? The defendant's previously impeccable character is not in dispute.
Oh, Your Honour, it's not her character I'm concerned with, but her commitment. Her commitment to her job and to the trade union rights of health workers. Now, I agree with my learned friend that such commitment, however passionate, is no defence here, but I suggest that it will both clarify and support her own account of this extraordinary incident.
Just so long as we can avoid invoking the spirit of Anaya and Bevan, or Mr. Belgrave might have a seizure.
Your Honour, the defendant's family live within a mile of Bevan's birthplace.
Oh, dear. I thought they might. Where were you born, Mr. Belgrave?
Next door to a chapel of rest, Your Honour.
Nurse Lloyd, what was the first thing you did on coming off duty on October the 16th?
I rang my union, the regional office.
Why?
Because of the arrests. And to get help.
Help?
More pickets for the following day.
Was there any response?
Yes, next morning the hospital was blockaded with health workers from all over the area. Police couldn't arrest everybody. Only essential goods were allowed through. By lunchtime, the health authority had agreed to a compromise scheme, converting an empty factory into a laundry instead of building a new one. All the jobs would be saved, the capital cost would be cut, and the running cost would be far lower than going private.
Has the government approved the plan?
No. But as soon as Fulchester Health Authority backed it, the strike was called off.
Were you surprised at such a quick solution?
It was obvious. The arrests at the North Gate were management's big card. All we had to do was trump it.
So when you told Sister Jeffries that you were going to show Mr. Lang, what did you mean?
Well, I meant that I was going to trump his big card. Bring in reinforcements. Call his bluff.
Are you saying that you foresaw the end of the strike?
Once I'd rung the union. Like I said, I wasn't going to stand by and let them use the police to break us.
Do you hold office in your union?
Yes, I'm secretary to the Fulchester branch and a delegate to the local trades council.
So you would be familiar with the rights of pickets in trade disputes?
Yes.
Even under the new legislation?
Especially under the new legislation.
Now, let me be quite clear. You were calling down mass picketing on your own hospital with secondary pickets from elsewhere in the region.
What else could I do?
Wasn't that illegal?
Yes. But the management would have needed a court injunction to stop us. So you see, I didn't need to play St. Joan.
In fact, was there any reason at all that afternoon to put at risk your job, your entire vocation?
I'm a nurse, not a martyr.
Now, after ringing the union's regional headquarters, what did you do next?
I went out to the picket line at the north gate of the hospital.
Was this an official picket line?
Well, yes. Yes, the laundry workers' strike was an official strike.
What did you find?
Nothing. The pickets had all been arrested for obstruction. Their banners were piled on a slope bordering the drive.
By whom?
Perhaps the police. It was a very neat pile.
Why didn't you go home and wait for the next day's reinforcements?
Well, I wouldn't have gone home. I'd have gone down to the police station to make sure our people were all right.
Only you didn't?
No, I had a feeling the management would try another laundry run.
How long did you wait?
Less than 5 minutes.
What happened?
The laundry van swung into the entrance.
And what did you do?
I picked up a placard.
And then?
Well, One minute the van was turning slowly off the main road, and then when I next looked up, it was accelerating down the drive.
Now, as you picked up your placard, what was your intention?
Same as always, to flag them down.
Did you intend to hurt anyone?
No.
Did you intend to hurt Mr. Lang?
I only ever intended to hurt his pride. I never intended to hurt him physically. Sister!
I told the truth.
From your side?
Well, I could hardly put your side. If you wish to fight for your principles, you must take the consequences.
I will!
The case of the Queen and Lloyd will be concluded tomorrow in the Crown Court. The case you're about to see, now in its third day, is fictional, but the procedure is legally accurate. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is selected from members of the general public. Outside the court, health workers await the outcome of the trial of Nurse Catherine Lloyd, accused of criminal damage and wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. The wounding charge arises from injuries sustained by laundry manager John Lang during a strike about privatization at Fulchester General Hospital.
Yes, Your Honor.
Nurse Lloyd, 16 people were arrested for obstructing the Fulchester Hospital laundry van on the afternoon of October the 16th. By that time, you were the only member of the strike committee not in custody. Yet when the van returned, you attempted to halt it on your own. Could you tell the jury why?
Because we had an agreement. Only essential goods were to go through the picket line. They should have been stopping to let us check. If they had stopped, there wouldn't have been any obstruction. They broke the agreement, you see. We'd already been checking for 2 days.
This was strike days 8 and 9?
Yes.
Now, on those occasions, how was the van stopped?
Like I said, we flagged it down and we asked the driver to open the back.
Did you ever have any reason to turn the van away?
Me, personally?
Yes.
Once.
Why?
They were smuggling in menu cards and stationery under the blankets.
And these were not essential supplies?
Another time they had crates of Guinness hidden, but we let that through. It caused a terrible row on the strike committee, but we agreed it was needed for mothers nursing young babies.
Now, on the occasion you turned the van back, what was the reaction of the laundry supervisor, Mr. Lang?
He was furious. Because of the lost time, you see. And I suppose he felt humiliated.
Oh, Your Honour. Nurse Lloyd, please tell the jury what you know for a fact, not what you suppose.
Sorry.
And now you looked up and the van was accelerating down the drive.
Yes, it all happened so fast. I ran down the slope.
Ran?
Well, yes, I had to run or they'd have been past me.
Were you still holding the placard?
In my right hand, I was waving with the other and shouting at them, the driver and Mr. Lang.
Shouting what?
Stop.
Stop?
Stop.
Is that all?
Over and over.
Now, at the speed they were travelling, did you think it was likely that they would stop?
Sounds silly, doesn't it? I know. Well, I suppose I could just have stayed at the top of the slope. I could have watched that van go past and said to myself, it's our turn tomorrow, wait till tomorrow. I could have done that. Who would have cared? Except for me. There was a job to do, you see. It was instinctive.
Wasn't it also rather risky?
Why? I'd done it before. Cars, motorbikes, even articulated lorries. Dozens wouldn't stop. The laundry van had been past us 50 times that first week.
Did you ever kick the laundry van or bang on its sides?
No. No, not me. I barracked them, sure, because they hadn't the guts to stop and stick up for themselves. A picket line is not a picnic, you see. But we never caused any damage or hurt anyone, not once, right through the strike. Until
the last laundry run on October the 16th. Now, Nurse Lloyd, would you tell the jury, in your own words, exactly what happened?
Well, once I'd started running, I just couldn't stop. I was going too fast down the slope. It was only a few yards. And the laundry van was too close in. It was right on the verge. It was terrible. I could see Mr. Lang's face at the side window. There was nothing I could do. At the bottom, I just went forward, somehow, into the van. Not on purpose. I was petrified. I threw my hands out to save myself, to stop myself hitting the van. And the placard went through the window. With the impact, I was half swung around. My back and the side of my head banged against the van. Next thing I remember, the driver was slapping my face.
Why did you hit him back?
Because I realized I could have been killed.
At this time, did you know that Mr. Lang was hurt?
No.
And when you visited him at the hospital, you said you were sorry.
Well, yes.
Why?
Well, because of his face. His eyes. And all those stitches. I was sorry for him.
Not because it was your fault.
No, it was an accident.
Not because of what you had done.
Because of his face. Because of his face.
What shoes were you wearing that afternoon?
These shoes.
The ones you wear on the ward?
Yes.
Would you mind removing one, please? To show to the jury. Composition soles. Did they give you any grip as you ran down the slope?
None at all. I just couldn't stop.
Thank you.
Such passionate trade unionism is rare in one so young, is it not?
Perhaps.
Particularly for a nurse.
Yes, but not wrong. Not a crime.
Oh, no, not at all.
I mean, it's not abnormal or anything, not sick.
Now, the laundry workers' strike was official, yet you did not join it. May I ask why?
It was the second hardest decision I've ever had to make.
Oh, what was the first?
Not joining the pay strike last year.
So you don't believe that nurses should strike?
I didn't say that.
Forgive me, what are you saying?
I stayed at my job both times because most wards at Fulchester General are understaffed already. Beds are being kept empty because the health service is so starved of cash that it cannot afford to pay trained staff to service them. So there was no one to cover for me. Would have been unfair on my colleagues and my patients.
Nurse Lloyd, I happen to agree with your learned counsel that political matters cannot be kept entirely out of this trial. Nonetheless, I had hoped to avoid political propaganda.
I was asked.
So you were, and your final sentence would have been an entirely adequate reply.
On the 10th day of the dispute, Nurse Lloyd, working all hours in the ward, sitting on the strike committee, you must have been rather tired.
Yes?
And angry. According to Sister Jeffries, you were especially angry with Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Above all with Mr. Lang?
No.
Come now, at every point in this growing confrontation, Mr. Lang had been, as I put it, in the front line.
Well, he was doing the management's dirty work.
Mr. Lang seems to feel that he was pig in the middle, trying to do his job.
Trying to keep his job.
Is that wrong? Or abnormal? Is that a crime?
No.
You're aware that your so-called agreement to stop and search the laundry wagon had no basis in law?
It was a management concession after the police played hell about the way that lad, the trainee, the way he was driving.
Was anyone actually charged with reckless driving?
Funnily enough, no.
Running down the grass slope as you did, Nurse Lloyd, I suggest that you were the reckless one.
If the van had not accelerated...
If the van had not accelerated, then you would have obstructed it by sitting down in the driveway, would you not?
No.
According to Sister Jeffries, you said you couldn't stand idly by and watch others arrested for what you thought was right.
Yes, and I also said that I hoped the picket line would hold out till I got there.
Exactly, so you could display your solidarity.
But it didn't hold out, and the first rule on any picket line is that you never sit down on your own. You might get run over.
Without witnesses?
Yes.
But you had no witnesses at the North Gate. Did that prevent you from running out at that laundry wagon?
I was trying to flag it down.
Nurse Lloyd, there you were, the single surviving member of the strike committee, the last available picket, confronting the strike-breaker-in-chief, the man responsible in part for the arrest of your comrades. Now, do you seriously expect the jury to believe that as this terrifying vehicle approached, that you hoped to persuade it to stop?
Well, if I'd got in front of it, going at that speed, I would have been killed.
Yes, as it was, someone else might have been killed. The driver, Mr. Lang, the
It
gentleman
was
in the
an
other
accident.
car. Oh, if you had not run down that slope, would it ever have happened at all?
Well, no.
Quite so, but you couldn't let that laundry wagon pass, could you? Too much had occurred already, too much passion, too much scores to settle. I suggest that you recklessly ran at that van, seeking indeed to join the day's arrested martyrs.
No.
And that you did so with hatred in your heart for Mr. Lang.
No.
And that you deliberately drove the wooden stake of your placard at the window where you could see his face.
Why? Why would I do it?
Passions. Politics. The sheer unwanted viciousness that can affect any hitherto normal person on a striker's picket line.
I'm not an animal.
At the very least, I suggest you struck at the van itself in frustration, rather as we have heard some of the pickets hammered and kicked at it previously, and that in so doing, you grievously injured Mr. Lang and caused that wagon to crash.
How dare you! How dare you! I have never hurt anyone in my life!
Silence!
This case has touched all our emotions. I understand the depth of feeling involved. At this stage, I have no wish to clear the public gallery again unless I'm compelled by another such outburst. Mr. Belgrave.
No further questions, Your Honour.
Are you all right, Nurse Lloyd?
Yes.
My learned friend was only doing his job.
That's enough, Mrs. Merritt.
Your Honour. Now, were you present when police discussed with management the driving of the hospital van?
Yes.
Did the meeting follow complaints from the strikers?
Yes.
Were you also present when the strike committee subsequently secured a stop and search agreement?
Yes.
Now, when you were struck by the van...
Actually, the van was struck by the defendant.
The jury will decide, Mr. Belgrave.
Your Honour.
In the incident with the van, were you injured?
No, not really. Just mild shock. They brought me a doctor and he said to take some time off, but I got some sleep and I felt fine, except for a headache.
So when were you back on the ward?
Next morning.
Had you been interviewed by the police?
Yes.
Had you been charged with any offence?
No.
When were you charged?
About a week later.
Now listen to me carefully, Nurse Lloyd, and give your answers to the jury. Is it true that you recklessly ran out at the passing van?
No. I meant to do what I'd done so often, but they caught me out, coming so fast. There was no time. I had to run. And they were so close. They were almost on the grass. I threw my hands out because I thought they were going to hit me.
Did you deliberately strike at the van with the placard?
No.
Did you deliberately jab the placard at the window where Mr. Lang was sitting?
No.
Did you intend, I repeat, Did you intend or even wish to hurt Mr. Lang?
No.
A final question, Nurse Lloyd. Have any of the 16 pickets found guilty of obstruction since been dismissed?
Of course not.
So, had this incident not turned out so tragically, your job would have been safe.
Yes.
Thank you.
But if it were true that I had deliberately rammed a wooden stake through a window to hurt someone, then I wouldn't deserve to be a nurse anyway.
Your Honour, that is the case for the defence.
Your verdict will be based on the facts, members of the jury. And the facts are that Nurse Lloyd, having helplessly watched her Union comrades being arrested, went over to the picket line and found there was no picket line to join, and that when the laundry wagon appeared, she ran down the grass slope to stop it, carrying a placard pinned to a wooden stake. Ask yourselves, members of the jury, would anyone merely wishing to flag down a passing lorry fling herself against it, screaming at the top of her voice? Whatever she was screaming, I leave it for you to determine. But remember that the one, so to say, independent eyewitness in this case, Mr. Baldwin, has testified that the defendant seemed to jump forward, and the arm carrying the placard was raised so she seemed to jab the banner into the wagon. Similarly, the young driver, Mr. Walker, said the nurse rammed the placard at the side window. Sister Jeffries has described Nurse Lloyd's animosity towards Mr. Lang, while the unfortunate Mr. Lang himself was convinced that she intended to injure him. 4 witnesses, member of the jury, against whom we have only the word of the defendant. Now, curiously, the defense seems to argue that if the laundry wagon had not accelerated, then the incident would not have occurred. But there was no obligation on the part of Mr. Walker to continue driving at 5 miles an hour when he could see that the driveway was clear. Nor do we have any proof in this instance that the vehicle was being improperly driven. No. The whole sad affair was caused by the defendant. At the very least, her behavior was reckless in the extreme. Did she not say when she slapped Mr. Walker's face that she could have been killed? But the prosecution's contention is far more serious than that. It is that Nurse Lloyd knew exactly what she was doing, that she fully intended to cause Mr. Lang such grievous and lasting harm. Why else would she have apologized to him at the hospital? In the heat of the moment, emotion overcame her. Emotion generated, I suggest, in varying degrees by her hostility to Mr. Lang, by her loyalty to her comrades, and by the anguished, if unrealized need for martyrdom in a woman divided at heart between her support for the strike and her decision not to join it. We all have to pay the price for such moments, members of the jury, if they result in breaches of the law.
Mrs. Merritt.
Members of the jury, Nurse Lloyd has neither gloried nor denied her support of the laundry workers' strike. In any democracy, the government will seek to secure its policies. Equally, in any true democracy, if the government is also the employer, aggrieved workers have the right to strike against those policies. Throughout this dispute, I contend Nurse Lloyd acted with a calm, level-headed firmness of experience admirable in one so young. I ask you, members of the jury, would the wild-eyed, emotionally disturbed extremist portrayed by the prosecution really have allowed crates of Guinness across a picket line to help nursing mothers? Would this same woman have charged out like a wounded beast and attacked a passing laundry van, let alone its occupants? Was it to revenge her jailed comrades when she already sensed the strike was won? Was it because the van did not stop, yet earlier in the dispute the van had passed her 50 times? No members of the jury. This was an accident. Pure and simple. Nurse Lloyd indeed tried to flag down the van. To have attempted anything else would have been lunacy. Was she to try and stop a 2-ton vehicle with her bare hands? Was she attempting to commit suicide by throwing herself in front of it, to obstruct it? Really? When she saw the van turn slowly into the hospital gates, she bent down to get the placard. By the time she'd straightened up, the van had trebled in speed, but by that time she was committed. As if by reflex, she started down the slope. In those shoes, members of the jury, with the slippery soles, and still with the placard in her hand. And trying to stop, losing her balance, slipping perhaps, she was pitched forward into the side of the van as it passed her inches from the verge. And what more natural than to throw up her hands, the placard still in them, to protect herself from injury? Now, regrettably, it was Mr. Lang who was hurt. But note the window damage at shoulder height, compatible with Nurse Lloyd's own height. And later, when she said she was sorry to Mr. Lang, was that an admission of responsibility, guilt, or rather compassion? The compassion of a woman whose whole life is spent looking after people in pain. Now, members of the jury, in order to convict the defendant, you must be sure, beyond reasonable doubt, that the prosecution has proved its case, and above all, that it has proved the intent to cause grievous wounding. I submit, on the contrary, that without doubt, this whole tragic episode was an accident, and that Nurse Lloyd is therefore innocent on all counts.
For all the passion and talk of passion in this matter, members of the jury, I ask you now to employ your coolest dispassion in your assessment of the evidence you've heard and to bring in your verdict accordingly. My duty is to guide you as to the law, and here my advice would be not to confuse yourselves with rules of picketing, whether old or new, except insofar as custom in this country permits a picket in a recognized dispute to attempt to persuade someone else from crossing a picket line, but only to persuade, you understand, and not to commit in the course of such persuasion any act otherwise punishable at law. Now, as to the facts before you, if you think that it may be true, with learned counsel for the defense, that Nurse Lloyd struck the laundry wagon accidentally, that is, without meaning to strike it or cause damage or injury, but doing so nevertheless in the course of a reasonable or justifiable attempt to attract the driver's attention, then you must acquit her of both charges. If you should think that her actions with regard to the passing vehicle were deliberate, or rather more reckless than accidental, that is, carried out without due care to the likely consequences, then you must judge her guilty of criminally damaging the vehicle, causing it to crash. More seriously, to convict the defendant of wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm under Section 18 of the Offences Against the Persons Act, you must be satisfied that she deliberately assaulted Mr. Lang with the express purpose of causing such horrendous injuries. Were you not so satisfied, it would be open to you under Section 20 of the same Act to bring instead the lesser verdict of malicious wounding, which argues a deliberate assault not directly intended to inflict such grievous injuries. Now, will you please retire, elect a foreman to speak for you, and consider your verdict.
Members of the jury, would your foreman please stand? Please answer this question, yes or no. Have you reached a verdict upon which you are all agreed?
Yes.
On the count of criminal damage in the indictment, do you find the defendant, Catherine Elizabeth Lloyd, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
On the count of wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
On the count of malicious wounding, Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
And these are the verdicts of you all?
Yes.
Catherine Lloyd was discharged and immediately returned to her job as a nurse on the women's surgical ward at Fulchester General Hospital. There'll be another case in the Crown Court.